Well, it was very difficult, obviously, after coming back from Australia. We had a very disappointing tour. There were some very critical comments made about the team's performances by myself, and we had to build ourselves up again. We had one or two new players in the side. We had to believe in ourselves that when we come up against the West Indies, which historically over the last 15, 20 years have been the best and strongest side, to get ourselves in the right frame of mind and to make sure that we could apply the ability that we know and I believe that we've got.
You recalled an old player called Ian Botham.
Yes, yeah. Both had put in some good early performances against the West Indies. He scored a tremendous 100 at Worcester against them. Traditionally, he'd not been at his best against the West Indies over the years. In fact, when he was in his pomp, really, in the early 80s, I mean, he never really did that well against the West Indies, and he was very fired up to do well. We brought him in for the one-day internationals for his all-round cricket ability, and obviously it paid dividends. He bowled tremendously well in the first one at Edgbaston.
Out, Illingworth, the catcher, a wicket for Botham. Boyzone O'Neill is back again.
A fairy tale story indeed for Ian Botham, but the story had an unhappy ending. Botham injured a hamstring and would not be fit for the start of the Test series. There were 3 fine innings by Michael Atherton. In fact, he was nominated England's Man of the Series. Graham Gooch hit early form and struck the ball well. As did Vivian Richards, still master of the easy 6. Wickets for David Lawrence suggested a likely replacement for the injured Angus Fraser. And Neil Fairbrother hit the big time with a century at Lord's.
Yes, you might as well look round, Neil Fairbrother. Look round and enjoy it. Everybody here at Lord's stood to applaud him. Thoroughly deserved.
The gratifying thing to me in the one-day internationals, Tony, was the fact that we won all 3 games, but in a different style. Each game was in a different style. They were very interesting and very intriguing matches.
So on to the tests, the 5-match series beginning at Headingley, with the usual speculation of the ball swinging and seaming for the quicker bowlers.
Traditionally, there's been a result there. I've played in quite a few matches where we've won there, including the great match in 1981. But we've lost a lot there as well, and you always think that it's not going to be the flattest batting wicket there. There's always going to be results. So I think the batsmen in the team always, believe that it's going to be difficult to score runs there. We turned up this last season there, and the wicket was not that bad at all. But it was a bit helpful for the bowlers, and I think it was pretty obvious there was going to be a win there for one of the 2 sides, and it was not going to be a sort of a 5-day draw.
Now, in your side was Graham Hick, who'd waited an awful long time, 7 years in fact, to play for England. Must have been extra pressure on him. Yes,
I think he was in one of those sort of no-win situations, really. I mean, he'd been qualifying for England for all that period of time. He had a fantastic domestic record in this country. He'd scored runs in every form of cricket he'd ever played in. And coming into that first test, there was tremendous pressure. Obviously, if he'd have done well, people would have said, oh, well, we expected that. And as things turned out, it didn't go quite so well. And people, started pulling his technique apart. So there was a lot of pressure on the ground.
Hick was not alone. Atherton's form too suddenly became a problem for his captain.
Unfortunately, his technique didn't hold up against them, and he's got plenty of years in front of him, and I'm sure he'll come back and do well at a later stage against them. Alan Lamb's a different kettle of fish. I mean, Alan's been a great fighter for England. He's got a record second to none against the West Indies and always takes hundreds off them, including a brilliant 100 at Jamaica when we won the Test match there. And there was no reason to suspect that Alan wouldn't carry on that sort of form against them. But unfortunately, he couldn't find his touch either, and that was unfortunate for England.
The wickets were taken for West Indies mainly in that first innings by Malcolm Marshall and Patrick Patterson. Do they come as a 4, as a quartet?
Yes, I don't think the names make that much difference, really. I've played against the West Indies for some 10, 12 years now, and in the early days it was Roberts, Holding, Garner and Croft. Now it's Marshall, Patterson, Ambrose and Walsh. Yeah, I can't remember the name. certainly Malcolm Marshall was one that sticks in my mind. He's given me tremendous trouble, and I've always have to think very positively when I bat against him, because he's got me out many, many times.
One of the dangerous games that critics play is writing people off, and people queried Vivian Richards' ability, but he scored a fantastic 73 in their first innings of 173.
Yes, I mean, very much so. I mean, Vivian Richards has been the great player over the last decade and a half. He's coming to the end of his career. He was obviously a very dangerous customer, and I always thought that over the last couple of years, the way Vivian's played, he's gone out there and been very aggressive, very positive with his batting, and I always thought that was to the bowling side's advantage. But certainly in this series, starting at Headingley, he knuckled down, he got his head down, he knew it was a big series, he knew it was his last series as captain. He wanted to go out on a winning note, obviously.
I remember thinking how fine the England fielding was, the catching was. There were 8 catches and 2 run-outs in that West Indies first innings.
Yes, I mean, Graham Hick obviously helped our fielding side a lot, not less in the catching side of it. Mark Ramprakash did particularly well fielding in that match, and our general fielding was a great improvement on what it was in Australia, which I think you have to be nowadays, because, as you well know, if you field well, and your fielding is of a high quality, you stop balls where maybe some other fielders wouldn't, you take great catches, that lifts the bowling side, it lifts your whole out cricket, and you can sometimes, you know, raise your game to perform at a higher level. In the start of that Test series, we got our fielding right, and I think our excellent fielding carried on pretty much all the way through the summer.
But a huge factor in that first Test match was 7 hours and 32 minutes of your own life. Marvellous performance, 154 batting right through.
What I remember of it now, I mean, it's a few months gone by, what I remember it now is that our wickets were falling early at the other end, and I thought, you know, we're going to be in trouble here, you've got to hang in there, and I just sort of was wheeling away at the other end while a few wickets were going down, and unfortunately, for me, Derek Pringle and Philip de Freitas later on both came together to hold up an end. And the thing I really remember is that it started to rain at one stage, and the light was a bit bad, and we was batting with Derek. The West Indies bowlers were tired, and I said to him, you know, they're going to offer us the light and the rain. I said, I think we ought to stay on because they're a bit tired. We don't want to go off and them have a rest or come back the next day, you know, when they're going to be refreshed. We might as well try and get as many runs as we can now while they're tired. And that's got to be about the first time in my career that I haven't taken the opportunity to go off the field against the West Indies bowlers.
Beautiful. Oh, that's a good shot. 50 stand between Gooch and Pringle. A lead now in excess of 200. That was a super stroke. Graham Gooch leaves the field now, and I can't imagine that he has ever played a better innings than that.
When they came to bat, did you expect to bowl them out then?
I thought we had a good chance, yes. We had well over 200 lead. It was going to be, they would have to make the highest score of the match. The wicket was helpful to the bowlers, although you could bat on it. I mean, I managed to, as you say, run up the score of 150, which is quite a lot on that pitch. But you know, they were quite capable of doing that. They got a number of good players. I mean, obviously Haynes, Richardson, and Richards were going to be the danger players for us, and it gave us just the boost we wanted when Philip de Freitas got a wicket with the very first ball of the second innings, which was just what we needed. And we came off for rain, I think, or bad light then, and we were set up for the next day.
Ramprakash is dropped it. Would have been a good catch. It got away from him. He grabbed at it again. Just seemed that he might have touched it a second time as well.
That's out. He's got his man. Desmond Haynes caught baton pad for 19.
That's high, it could be caught. It's caught by Gooch. Second wicket for Watkin. It was Richards who wafted him into the stands in the first innings, and now he gets his revenge.
Oh, good heavens, what a catch. What a marvellous catch.
That's it. He's caught him again. Lamb scored him. First slip, and Richardson's gone. Oh, that's out, yes. Sits out, he kept low. Alas, poor Dujon, I think, had very little chance there.
Got it. Atherton, he wanted it, he went after it, and he's taken the catch. That removes the final obstacle for England. England beat West Indies here at Headingley. Their last win in England against the West Indies was on this ground way back in 1969. Then they won by 30 runs. Here it's a much more conclusive victory.
It's quite deafening here. Yes, not often, well, I've never beaten the West Indies in England, so it's a new experience, but the boys played well. We felt we had a chance after making a comeback yesterday, and they stuck at it and things went well for us today.
So let's move on to Lords. England 1-up was a marvellously strong position for you to be in. We often come to Lords these days expecting a draw.
Yes, I don't know. When the West Indies are in town, I mean, you don't always expect a draw. They've got the sort of bowlers that can turn matches. We competed and matched them in the first test, and we obviously didn't want to let things slip in the second test, and Lords was a vital match for us. It's always a great place for English players to play. There's always a full house here pretty much every day of the match, and it's a great place to show off your talent, and we didn't want to obviously let things slip. They obviously wanted to try and bounce back. We managed to do well in the match, and I think the match was ruined by rain in the end.
Absolutely.
But I think Robin Smith had a tremendous performance in this match.
Well, Robin Smith got 148. It was an outstanding innings, and for West Indies, someone really came of age, I suppose. Carl Hooper, 111, his third Test century. But the first time we'd seen him play like that.
Yes, Carl, we played against him for the first time, I think, in 1988, where he did well in the first Test in that series, and then the West Indies pushed him up to number 3, and he struggled a bit for the rest of the tour. He's been in and out of their side a bit, but he's a very talented player, and I, feel pleased as a professional cricketer that he's, made his name now and he's established himself in that side. I mean, Robin Smith is just unbelievable. I mean, he had a difficult series in Australia. He really struggled for form. He worked at his game all the way through and didn't let things slip. And this series, it paid dividends for him. He came back, got back in the frame. And he has this knack of being able to bat tremendously well with tail-end batsmen, and he's done it many, many times. Knock up 100, bat him in the sort of 8s, 9s and 10s.
Well, you can just sense the confidence growing in Robin Smith, and they've won, I should say, about the first 6 rounds this morning, because it's forced the West Indies, in the form of Vivian Richards, to change the bowling and bring on the spin of Hooper.
Oh, that's Smith at his best. The footwork there was absolutely copybook. The timing was wonderful. Curtly Ambrose now to Derek Pringle. There's runs, 2 of them. Pringle looking and getting the 3rd, and that's it. The crowd know. Ambrose knows, and the England balcony knows. Lovely shot. And not a hint of a slog about that. And that takes Robin Smith to his highest score for England, beating his 143 against Australia at Old Trafford 2 years ago.
Of course, the first two tests really raised an eyebrow about England's middle order batting. It hadn't quite fired. I mean, you must have gone to Trent Bridge for the third test with those problems in mind.
Yes, it's a difficult balance. We had myself and Mike Atherton, Graham Hick at 3, Alan Lamb 4, Ramprakash 5 and Robin Smith 6. Now the reason for the batting order, and a lot of people was questioning it at the time, is as I say, we tried to split our experienced players, Lamb, Smith and myself, with the inexperience in Hick and Ramprakash. We didn't want to bunch them together. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Hickey and Lammy both struggled. Ramprakash did a reasonable job at number 5. So our middle order was exposed quite a bit, and they didn't get the runs they would obviously liked. And but then again, I believe that in past years, it's not been wise to chop and change the side. We stuck with Lammy and Hickey and gave them a good run in the side. Obviously, Lammy had been an experienced quality player for us, and I'm sure will be again. And we didn't want to chop and change the side. We wanted to give the boys confidence. We wanted to stick with it. We thought they were our best line-up at the beginning of the series, and we decided to stay with that for quite a few matches. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them, but I still believe that's the right policy.
So, Trent Bridge, England win the toss, bat, 300 all out. It seemed to one or two be a little bit short on a good track.
And there again, just look at the short arm pull there from Graham Gooch. The shot, I think, there shows everything about the pace of the pitch. A quicker pitch, he couldn't have hit it in that direction.
We had a good position in the first innings of that Test match. In fact, we were over 100 for no wicket, if I remember. And we didn't capitalise on that great start. And we only managed 300, which was a good 100 runs short. And I think as the match went on and it mapped out over the 5 days, that's where we lost the match. He's not getting enough runs in the first innings.
Everyone expected Curtly Ambrose to stamp his own mark on the series. He got 5 for 74, but he's a very talented young bowler. Yeah,
he's very talented, very tall, very awkward, very quick. He's certainly near the top of the rankings nowadays, and he had an excellent series against us. And I remember one of my opening partners said, do you want the sight screen moved for Curtly Ambrose? I said, yeah, preferably between myself and him, really. But yeah, he really was a tremendous trouble to us throughout the summer. I mean, he gave all the batsmen problems. He's a sort of bowler that keeps it tight. If there's anything in the wicket, he bowls people out, and his appetite for bowling, you know, tremendous amount of overs was unbelievable.
Yes. England introduced a left-arm spinner into the side for that Test match, Richard Illingworth, and do you remember him getting his wicket, his first ball in Test cricket?
Yes, something he remember for all his life, taking a wicket with his first ball in Test cricket, and I think the guy, Phil Simmons, I think it was, defended the ball and it just rolled back onto the stumps, and it was a great start for him, and I'll be pleased if the next time he plays a Test match he gets a wicket with his first ball again.
But in fact, the West Indies built up a substantial total. Viv Richards was content to play anchorman, at least some of the time. Viv looked to be concentrating hard at his batting. He played with more responsibility than he had over recent series. The prize, of course, was never to have lost a series as West Indian captain. Gus Logie played sensibly with the tail, which included some highly profitable improvisation by Malcolm Marshall, often a dangerous opponent with the bat.
What was crucial is the fact that Marshall got 60-odd, I think, against us in that match, and I think that was the deciding factor, apart from our low score, is that he managed to take the West Indies total up to a decent lead. We struggled that night, and that was going to be crucial for us after they batted. We lost 3 wickets.
25 for 3.
That's right, and once we were 25 for 3, we were going to struggle to hold them in that match, and it was a crucial session for us that evening.
Oh, and he's got him. Leave alone. Back on, and Atherton gives West Indies exactly the start they wanted. Well, their tails are already up with that lead, but to strike an early blow like that, and this is turning out to be Malcolm Marshall's day. Graham Hick. Just come to the wicket. 43 in the first innings. Oh, they're claiming it and giving it to him. Inside edge. Wonderful bit of bowling and a great catch from Dujon. And that's the end of Hick. And England now 8 for 2.
No doubt about that. Ambrose has sneaked through. Well, he's blasted through rather than sneaked through with a very, very good inducker.
You had a great flourish with the bat to watch Philip de Freitas at 55, no doubt, but also David Lawrence played a marvellous innings of great entertainment, didn't he?
Yes, you know, it was great watching from the dressing room, because when the number 11 comes in, you know, you're always hopeful they're going to hang around for a while, but more often than not, especially against the West Indies, it doesn't happen. And Philip played particularly well. He's a talented sort of lower order batsman. We are hoping in the England team that he's going to run up with a few runs in his career. And David Lawrence sort of took a lead from him and became rather flamboyant, and the shots were going all around the place, and it was great to watch, and they gave us a sort of a glimmer of hope that we could bowl at the West Indies and put them in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, in fact, it never happened. West Indies 115 for 1, that was the end, so they knocked off the runs. Richie Richardson and Desmond Haynes both getting half-centuries each, and Desmond Haynes, I guess, quite happy to be walking off after playing 100 test matches for the West Indies.
Yes, yes, he's been a great player for the West Indies, a real solid rock as their opening batsman over many, many years with Gordon Greenwich, and he got a few runs there. But in fact, in most of the series, he didn't score heavily as he normally does in Test matches against us, which I think was one of the reasons that we managed to compete so well with them.
I don't think he's going to bother to run very hard with that. Lovely shot, though, by Desmond Haynes.
No one will stop that one. There's a fierce reply from Richardson to the short pitcher. That's good innings from Desmond Haynes. Half-century for him. Just ahead of Richie Richardson. And it is his 35th half-century in Test cricket. He's made 1600s besides. .50 for Richie Richardson. Played in very sensible fashion. Charged with the duty of going out there at the fall of Phil Simmons' wicket and making certain that with Desmond Haynes he saw West Indies through to their victory.
Edgbaston, the 4th test, and all square. There was a delayed start and a lot of theories about the pitch, but the experts predicted spin and uneven bounce. The captain was dropped first ball, the sort of thing he remembers.
Yes, he bowled me, Curtly bowled me a sort of wide short ball, and I had a sort of fence at it first ball and got a very thick outside edge. It flew quite quickly to Carl Hooper, who's a pretty good catcher at second slip. And I think it just surprised him. I think he hadn't got the sleep out of his eyes, actually, from the previous night. And fortunately, it went through his hands. I think we ran a 2 or a single off it, but that was a fortunate miss for me. But that was an interesting match as well.
Well, it was, wasn't it? I like not to talk about absentees for injury, because after all, West Indies were without Gordon Greenwich and they missed Patrick Patterson. But you were without Robin Smith, who was very crucial to you. Yes,
Robin had a finger injury. We gave him right until that morning to say that he was fit, to pass himself fit. If he'd have said to me, look, Gooch, I'm sort of 80% fit, it's not right, I'm going to struggle, but I'll play for you, I would have played him. But unfortunately, he said it wasn't good enough, he didn't feel happy with it, so we had to leave him out. I think it was sort of a legacy of an injury he picked up in Antigua in the previous series against West Indies, where he broke his finger. And although he played with it, he'd always given him trouble, and I think he'd taken a few blows on it, and it sort of just flared up once again.
Yes. Now, Graham Hick, everyone felt for him at this stage because he'd fallen to Curtly Ambrose 5 times in 6 innings. Do you think the West Indies had worked out something specific against Graham Hick?
Yes, I think they'd worked out that they was not going to pitch the ball up to him in any way, shape or form. I think they decided that he was had a problem against the short pitch ball, against the bouncer, and they decided to work ruthlessly on that sort of theory, and with credit to them, it worked for them.
Oh, right through him. Right through him. Hello, Mr. Ambrose. My name is Hick.
And I'm sure Ambrose will accept the challenge.
That was a no ball.
Richards has got him. That's a good over from Ambrose. Now he's had Hick caught off another leg cutter for 19 by the skipper Vivian Richards.
They decided to work him over with the short pitch ball, and he struggled to cope with it.
England out for 188, Ambrose 3 for 64, Marshall 4 for 33. Was there anything special in the pitch or in the air?
Yes, looking at the pitch, we included a spinner. We thought it was going to help the spinner later on. It didn't look the normal Andy Atkinson type wicket. He's the groundsman there, and I know Andy very well. He was groundsman at Essex for many, many years. It looked a bit uneven. It didn't look the normal sort of flat test match type pitch. It looked like there was going to be a result, and actually as the match progressed, the ball played a few little tricks. It went very uneven, very up and down, and it was a good wicket to bowl on. And we thought we had an outside chance in the last innings to bowl them out. But unfortunately, we were just a few runs short.
Yes, Richie Richardson got in your way initially in the first innings. He scored 104.
Yes, he played tremendously on that pitch. To score 100 on that uneven pitch was a great performance, and all credit to Richie. And it's a sort of wicket you had to graft on. It was not easy to score runs. You had to make sure you hung in there, and the ball was keeping low. And I always believe that the most difficult type of pitch to play on, especially against the fastest type of bowling.
Super start for Richardson. Great stroke.
Lovely timing. Really effortless.
Bat pad man in close on the offside. Still 7 saving the single. He's got it, and there he goes, and what an innings that is. In a match which, towards the end of the second day, no batsman has got 50 except for Richardson, and he's got 100.
There was an even more eventful third day. 8 wickets fell before lunch. Chris Lewis took 5 wickets for the first time in Test cricket, ending with 6 for 111. It certainly helped Gooch to have a bowler who could remove the tail. England was struggling when Ambrose was first caught by Graham Hick at second slip. And then, to limit the West Indies lead to 104, Chris Lewis caught and bowled Courtney Walsh.
Chris had been recalled to the Test match scene after pulling out the first Test match with a sort of not feeling well. And we were very pleased to have him back. He proved his form in county cricket. He came back and scored a tremendous half-century for us. And along with Derek Pringle, really gave us a chance, gave us a total to bowl at in the last innings of that match. And they batted superbly and showed us the ability that both of them have got.
Yes, it's strange what incidents stick in the mind. I simply remember Gus Logie dropping Derek Pringle, because Gus Logie never drops straightforward catches. And Derek Pringle and Chris Lewis put on some runs.
Yeah, I think that was at mid-wicket, wasn't it? Yeah, he's normally a tremendous catcher. He's their man who does short leg, and he's got a tremendous pair of hands. He's very quick and nifty on his feet, and for him that was quite a bit of a dolly of a catch.
That's a firm push on the onside.
My word, that's running away.
Malcolm Marshall bowling to Derek Pringle, and Pringle's been batting now for 5 hours. 45 runs in 5 hours. And out. And that is a disappointing end for Derek Pringle. 5 hours at the crease. Caught off Malcolm Marshall by Gus Logie. Pringle out for 45. England all out, 255.
You've got Morris one, Atherton one, Hick one. In a test match, it's very hard to recover from those situations.
Yes, we brought Hugh Morris in, or he came in to replace Robin Smith for his first test, and Hughie found it obviously very difficult to adjust, but that's the name of the game at the top level. Yes, the thing that sticks in my mind about that match is I remember we were, you have to correct me if my figures are not, I think we were something like 5 for 3, or maybe 10 for 3, anyway, very single figures for 3 wickets. Now it's very difficult to come back from that sort of position, and I hung in there for a little while. I think Lammy scored 20 odd, and we brought it round a little bit, but when you're sort of 10 for 3, very difficult to come back, and we really struggled. I think on that pitch, if we could have given the West Indies some 200 to chase, 200 and a bit more maybe, it might have proved a tall order for them, because we did have them 20 for 3, and Philip de Freitas run through their top order, and but then the great man Viv Richards turned it round for them.
That's 50. A straight salute to the dressing room.
That's 4 more. It's a good shot too. Almost as though he's waiting for that. First ball of a new spell from Derek Pringle. And Hooper latched onto it. Oh, that's quite a good way to do it. Could hardly be straighter down the ground for 6. To win the match, take a 2-1 lead in the series, so they can't be beaten, West Indies. The series could be drawn by England if they win at the Oval.
In the last test we made some changes. We knew we had to win the match. We felt we needed a 5-man bowling attack to bowl out the West Indies twice. They were not going to give us anything. That meant that one of our batsmen had to go, and we felt the best balance of the side was taking a slight risk, was to bring Alex Stewart in as wicket-keeper, who was a trusted sort of middle-order batsman, not keeping wicket regularly. We realised that there was a bit of a slight gamble in that. I'm generally not in favour of dropping your best wicket-keeper. Jack Russell kept wicket excellently for us, but he'd been struggling for runs at number 7. And we decided that that was the least risk, is to bring in the wicket-keeper rather than go with 5 bowlers and 1 less batsman, because traditionally against the West Indies you have to score enough runs to be in the match. And fortunately for us, things work out.
Well, to begin with, Graham, England scored 419, you got 60, and Robin Smith, and the other pillar of the side, really, got a century.
Yes, I think the nice thing about that for us was, I think in all my test matches against the West Indies, Tony, I can't ever remember scoring more than 400 in an innings. So that was a first for us, and to get 400 in on the board, as you know, against the West Indies takes a long period of time, because that's that type of bowling. I think they reverted to quite a few bouncers in that first day of that test, if I remember. In fact, more bouncers probably than they bowled in the whole of the series before that. And we got 400, which gave us a great chance to set up a victory.
Oh, look at the lift there. Second delivery of a match. Oh, that's a great shot. He was waiting for that one. The player who loves to get on the front foot.
That's a beautiful stroke. It's pitched well up by Courtney Walsh, and that's the sort of stroke that a top-class player
always accomplishes with some style. The 50 partnership.
That's a good shot. That will race away over the outfield. It's a bit downhill there. No chance of cutting that off.
Only that naught in the second innings at Headingley to mar that sequence. That'll be it. Great effort. Crowd just don't applaud, they cheer as well, and so they should. Both of them turning into 3 runs. And listen to this for a reception for Robin Smith.
A big reception as well for Ian Botham, once more fit and in form.
First ball for almost exactly 2 years. His last test match for England was in the middle of August at Trent Bridge 2 years ago.
Can I just talk to you for a moment about Mark Ramprakash, because he played with great technique and promise right through the whole series, but had never quite burst out of the 20s into an important innings. And again, he got 25 very good runs.
Yes, I thought he showed tremendous composure and maturity the way he batted against, in most times in difficult occasions, because when he came in at number 5, and number 3 and 4 hadn't featured that well in the Test series in the early matches, and he was under pressure every time.
That's a fine shot. The occasional loose ball hasn't always been treated on its merits. This one was. Lovely shot. The previous one he clubbed to the boundary ropes. This one was stroked there. That was a lovely piece of timing.
And now it was time for Ian Botham to make his comeback with the ball.
Ah, there it is. Ian Botham gets his man, Richie Richardson, flashing outside the off stump.
Alex Stewart took that catch. Now, there'd been criticism that this batsman wicketkeeper had replaced Russell, the specialist, but Stewart silenced the critics. Gooch brings on Phil Tufnell at the pavilion end, keen to pose some early questions with spin. But how much spin had Clayton Lambert actually seen?
Well, that's his answer, and the first ball, and he's got him. Got him. Another wicket for Tufnell, Botham the man, and West Indies now in real trouble.
And he's caught behind. And Botham has him. Tufnell has another wicket. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. What's going on out there? Brilliant stuff. And for 5 for 25, Reed 6 for 25.
Well, I knew roughly what they'd be doing, and they'd be trying to get after me, and so you just got to keep your cool and just keep plugging away, really, and hopefully they'll chip them up in the air.
Yeah, and what chances of a repeat performance in this innings?
Well, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it? I don't know. I just have to try my best.
So you get to this marvellous stage where you have to decide whether to enforce a follow-on or not. How do you remember the second half of the game, so to speak?
Oh, I don't think there's any problem about enforcing the follow-on, Tony. I don't think I've ever been in a position where I've enforced the follow-on against the West Indies, so I wasn't going to miss that opportunity. And we had to work a lot harder to bowl them out in the second innings, and it was a real hard graft to bowl them out.
Well, now dropping down the order for the West Indies captain. And this, the final appearance. Well, that one was hit a little harder than the first boundary he scored. And for the first time in this Test match, it'll be Botham bowling to Richards. And that is 50. Acknowledgement to the dressing room first, then the crowd, as well as 24 hundreds for the West Indies, 45 50s. Oh, and he's out. Went for one over the top, and Lawrence gets his third wicket. What a vital wicket that might be. 305 for 5. And Richards acknowledges applause on a Test match ground for what he says is the final time.
Quite simply, he's the best batsman, the best player I've ever played with or against in my career. And with all due respect to the players of yesteryear, the game has changed. It's a different game now. And I'm sure that in 20 years' time, from when Viv and I have faded well away from the scene, it'll be a different game again. But I find it hard to believe there's ever been a better player.
He certainly set out in that innings to save the game for him. I would add that not a position he's probably used to in the match that he's batting to save the match. Richie Richardson come up with the goods once again.
95 to Richie Richardson. In 3 strokes in this over. Richie Richardson goes to 99. Splendid 100 for Richie Richardson. 100 out of 330 for 6. Very good innings. He still has plenty of work to do.
What is desperately needed is runs.
And got him. Lawrence's 5th. West Indies bowled out for 385. England's target to win the match and square the series, 143.
David Lawrence, he played a couple of matches. He was just starting to get his act together. He was getting better every match. He's a bit wild and raw, but he's learning to bowl with more control. One thing he does give you, he gives you 110%. You know, he's become a bit of a crowd favourite, and it was particularly pleasing that he got his just rewards of his first 5 wickets in the Test match.
That is one cracking stroke, I tell you.
There's 4 more. Clayton Lambert to bowl with the scores level. And that is out. And how often this happens in Test cricket, an occasional bowler comes on, somebody to finish a match, and he gets a wicket. And I suppose the fairy tale story to end the Test match would be for Ian Botham to hit the winning run. There he goes. 1 hit from Botham. He wants a stump. Umpire Holder's got them. And England win, and that is the first time since 1957 they've won 2 games against the West Indies in a 5-match series.
I have to remember that the background of the other Test series I've played against them. I played in 1986 in the West Indies where we lost 5-0. I played in 1988 where we lost 4-0. And in terms of matches, those Test series were not contests. They steamrolled us in every match, and it was just one-way traffic. The most pleasing thing for me and for my team, and the character my team showed, was the fact we fought in every match. We won 2 Test matches. We fought hard in the 2 test matches we lost. We were not disgraced. We competed in those 2 test matches. We were in the game for most of the game, which was very pleasing. And the fact that we had a great cricketing series. I'm sure all the public in this country really enjoyed the cricket this summer. They all had value for money. They saw tremendous matches in every test. And it was proof to me that our cricket and our system of playing our cricket over here can compete with the best in the world.